Chuck, a rough-around-the-edges working-class man, is known for his sheer grit, but not for his skill. He is a man of few words and big ambitions, trying to make a name for himself in the boxing world. Chuck is depicted as someone who believes that his big break is just around the corner, even if his talents don't quite match the potential he sees in himself. Webner is a good fighter, but not great. He's a middleweight boxer with a reputation for being tough and durable, but not a contender for the title. His career is largely forgotten until, in 1975, he receives an unexpected opportunity, a shot at the heavyweight champion of the world, Muhammad Ali, played by Lenx who is looking for a challenger before his next major fight. The big fight against Muhammad Ali. The film's pivotal moment is, of course, the legendary 1975 fight between Chuck Webner and Muhammad Ali. This event is showcased as the defining moment of Chuck's career, even though it wasn't supposed to be one. Ali, known for his extraordinary skill and speed, is at the peak of his career. Webner, however, is far from being a contender, and most people see the fight as a mismatch. Yet, Chuck is determined, using his natural toughness and resilience as his main weapon. As the fight unfolds in the film, we see Chuck taking a pounding from Ali, but somehow managing to stay on his feet. The most iconic moment comes when Chuck manages to knock Ali down, an unprecedented feat at the time. Even though it was brief and Ali quickly recovered, it becomes the moment that defines Chuck's career, the one that elevates him from an anonymous boxer to a man who shared the ring with one of the greatest athletes of all time. However, despite the glory of lasting 15 rounds with the champ, Chuck ultimately loses the fight by a technical knockout. The moment of his glory is fleeting, and he returns to his normal life, which is far less glamorous than what he had imagined. Post-fight life and personal struggles. While the fight with Ali should have been the peak of Chuck's life, the aftermath of the fight shows that fame is fleeting and hollow. The movie takes us through Chuck's struggles after the event, where we see that his life is far from perfect. He tries to hold onto the fame from the fight, but it doesn't provide him with the stability he desires. The film dives deep into the emotional aftermath of his brief brush with glory. Chuck's personal life begins to unravel. He struggles with relationships, particularly with his wife, Phyllis, played by Elizabeth Moss, who is shown to be increasingly frustrated with his behavior. She has always been supportive of Chuck, but his inability to capitalize on his fame and his emotional instability begin to tear them apart. Their marriage deteriorates as Chuck becomes more reckless, turning to alcohol and unhealthy coping mechanisms to fill the emptiness that comes with no longer being in the spotlight. In addition to his troubled marriage, Chuck's life begins to spiral further as he experiences financial difficulties. Despite the fame that came with fighting Ali, he never made the lasting financial gains that many other fighters did. This is compounded by his deep dissatisfaction with his career post-Ali and his continued attempts to stay relevant in a world that has moved on without him. Themes of identity and redemption. At its core, Chuck explores identity and the quest for redemption. Chuck's entire life and sense of self-worth were tied to his status as a boxer, and even though he had this one moment of glory, he never seemed to be able to fully integrate that into his everyday life. He had a dream, but once it was achieved, it didn't come with the fulfillment he had hoped for. Chuck's identity was always about being the tough guy in the ring, but in real life, he struggled with feelings of inadequacy and insecurity. The movie portrays him as someone constantly searching for meaning, constantly seeking to validate his own existence in a world that doesn't seem to care. Chuck's quest for redemption is depicted as a series of misguided attempts to find peace. He flounders in his personal life, makes poor decisions, and clings to the idea of reliving his glory days. He attempts to find peace in the wrong places, such as turning to alcohol, which only further exacerbates his problems. His emotional struggles are palpable, especially as he tries to reconcile with the man he was before the fight and the man he's become after. The influence of the Rocky legacy. One significant aspect of Chuck's story is the fact that his fight with Muhammad Ali became the inspiration for the iconic 1976 film Rocky. While the movie never directly mentions Rocky, it's clear that Chuck's life serves as the basis for the fictional character's story. The film suggests that Sylvester Stallone, who wrote and starred in Rocky, was inspired by Chuck's underdog tale, yet Chuck never received the recognition he deserved for being a real-life inspiration. This theme is explored subtly, with Chuck's bitterness over not receiving the recognition for inspiring Rocky adding to his feelings of resentment and frustration. The relationship between Chuck and Phyllis. Another central relationship in the movie is the one between Chuck and his wife, Phyllis. The film spends considerable time showing their love story and the toll Chuck's obsession with his past takes on their marriage. Phyllis is a strong character, showing both love and tough love, but she's worn down by Chuck's inability to change or accept the reality of his situation. Phyllis is eventually driven to leave Chuck due to his inability to let go of his past. This part of the film highlights Chuck's inability to balance his quest for redemption with the real demands of his family and relationships. Phyllis's departure marks a significant turning point in Chuck's life, and it underscores how fame and ego can destroy personal relationships. Conclusion and reflection on Chuck's legacy. As the film winds down, Chuck is shown as a man who is still searching for meaning. The movie ends on a somber note, with Chuck looking back at his career and reflecting on what his life has become. Although he had a moment of glory, the lasting impact of his story is ultimately not about the fight with Ali, but about the human cost of chasing fame and glory at all costs. Chuck's story is one of lost opportunities, broken relationships, and the harsh reality of fame's temporary nature. Chuck Webner, in the end, is left as a symbol of an underdog who never fully recovered from his brief moment in the limelight. The film leaves audiences reflecting on the nature of fame, identity, and the emotional toll of living in the shadow of a fleeting moment of glory.